Western Valley Congressman Henry Cuellar joining us on 710 KURV. How you doing this morning, Henry?
Hey, I'm doing fine. Good morning to you.
Hey, missed you yesterday over at the immigration forum. What, you didn't get the invite, or what happened?
No, I did. Actually, it was, I had one on going off to San Antonio, but yesterday I was up there in El Paso. One of the things I was trying to do is take a look at the border security, because one of the things that I'm doing in the Appropriations Committee, in the Subcommittee of Appropriations, is see, how many personnel. Hopefully we'll be adding more Customs Border Protection folks down there.
Yeah. The immigration reform that's being talked about, might it lead to, more personnel at the bridges? More, we're hearing that it might lead to more Border Patrol to enhance border security, but what about, the infrastructure, the bridges, the personnel to move commerce faster?
Well, that's the problem, If you look at it, at least what they're talking about add more Border Patrol, add more fencing, and add the National Guard. And, with all due respect to a lot of my friends, they keep forgetting that it's not only adding the men and women in green, which is Border Patrol, but you got to add the men and women in blue, which is the Customs, because that's what keeps trade moving.
Congressman, can I take a step back, please? Because you just reminded me of something that's been in the news related to this. You mentioned the F word again. Fencing. Is this something that, in your mind, is this something that worked and we need more of? Or is this just something that is a feel-good measure, from, I don't know, Midwest or Northeast representatives who say, we need more fencing? What's the story on that? Because I keep hearing the F word constantly when it comes to immigration reform and this bill that's being put together.
Well, look, a fencing is a 14th century solution to a 21st century problem that we have. Look at the Great Wall of China. Look at the Berlin Wall. I'll find it interesting if one of these days, there's a Mexican president on the other side saying, "Mr. President, tear down this wall," like Ronald Reagan did in Berlin some years ago. To put one,
which would he would have? It'd be ridiculous, because that's not the same country. It's just two autonomous countries. He's defending a southern border just like we're defending our southern border. But who's calling for fencing, Congressman? Is it the Border Patrol that say, okay, this worked, we want it as an instrument in trying to secure the border? Who's asking for fencing?
Well, quite honestly, it's our Republican colleagues. If you look at the proposal by the Senate, there is $1.5 billion for new fencing. To put 1 mile of fencing, it will cost $7.5 million per mile. To put 1 mile of technology, sensors, cameras, and all that, it'll cost about $1 million per mile. So for a taxpayer, I think it makes more sense to put the technology that works out there.
Joining us, Western Valley Congressman Henry Cuellar on 710 KURV.
Yeah, Congressman Tim Sullivan here, and that prompts the question then, why would Republican conservatives want to spend, or let me put it another way, want to waste that kind of money on something that we already know doesn't really work?
I think a lot of them don't know these figures. I spent a lot of time in Homeland, and I asked them questions about the cost, and a lot of folks, they just don't understand. They haven't seen the terrain that we have. I mean, I took one of Michael McCall, who's now the chairman of Homeland, I think about 2-3 years ago, we got in a low-flying plane. We flew from Laredo all the way to Brownsville in the Civil Air Patrol. And I said, Mike, you tell me, as we saw the river snake and, the type of terrain, I said, you tell me how we are going to be putting a fence down this area. You tell me, and what about the conservative approach about private property rights? What do you tell those landowners? Hey, you're going to give up your property over here because you just put a fence? Look what happened in Brownsville when they tried to almost split the college, the university. My joke was, when we're trying to stop that, said, hey, are you going to take English or Spanish, on one side of the fence? Because, I mean, it was just amazing. They just didn't take a lot of things into account. They just don't understand what the border is and our dynamics are down here. So
it is more of a feel-good measure in their way of thinking.
Well, in many ways it is a feel. It's a sense that they feel that that's going to take care of the problems. I mean, look at I asked Border Patrol how much time does they I still remember this in the Homeland. I said, how much time does a fence buy you? and basically, it's less than 20 seconds. I mean, there's folks that can climb those fences in less than 20 seconds. So we're going to spend $7.5 million on just 20 seconds of delay, while you can have let's say a camera or a sensor that can catch miles and miles. What about using some of that equipment that the military has used in Iraq and Afghanistan that I've seen out there, those feather balloons, where you can put 24-hour cameras and they can be there 24 hours a day and they can catch miles and miles of territory.
Okay, so these arguments that you're making now, is it too late to make those, or is this additional fencing and, waste of financial resources already stuck in this immigration reform bill?
Well, in the Senate bill, it's already there. There's $1.5 billion of new fencing there.
Well, it's not going to be taken away in the House bill. That's probably a for sure.
Yeah. And I would say on the Senate bill, the House bill, they definitely going to feel this way. And I told some of them, look, if you feel fencing is so important, and I won't even mention the person I told you because you all probably know him. I said, hey, I'll be happy to push to put a fence around your city. It was here in Texas. I'll push to put a fence around your city if you want a fence. I won't say who we're talking about.
Tancredo.
I won't say who, but I said I'll be happy to.
We never liked that Mike McCall up in Austin, believe. We never liked that guy. Hey,
no.
Well, it's so refreshing to see that you guys are such advocates for private property. It's not limited to land. It's also cash and assets in the bank that Washington likes to seize so often. But I digress. Hey, listen, back to the point that we called you about, which was Representative Beto O'Rourke and your conversation on infrastructure. What can be done? What are you guys talking about as far as, to do something to move traffic faster?
Well, it's the same thing that we're talking about down there in our bridges in South Texas, in the sense is that we need more men and women in blue. We walked across the bridge. We went into Ciudad Juarez, and then we walked back and we were looking at how many lanes are open, how long does it take you to come across. We came across, we didn't tell them who we are. Of course, they probably thought we were a little suspicious in the middle of the afternoon and a business suit and tie. But anyway, we were looking at how long it takes. And to be quite honest, it takes time. And there were 5 lanes. They had 12 lanes, and 5 of them were closed. So this is why we need to look at trying to put more men and women in blue to move our traffic. We got to train them where they can be nicer and provide customer service. I know they got to keep out the bad elements, but a lot of those good people are coming in, are spending money over here. We got to treat them with a little bit of dignity. And quite honestly, the third thing is I want to see more efficiency out there. Like, for example, when we're walking across, there were 4 Border Patrol on the lane, going into Mexico. And I asked them, hey, what are y'all doing over here? They said, well, we're checking for guns and for cash going back into Mexico. My first thought was, I thought Border Patrol was to keep people from coming in, the bad people coming in and all that. But actually they had 4 people on the lanes going into Mexico. And I know we got to help the Mexicans, but maybe we ought to put somebody there instead of Border Patrol and put Border Patrol so they can patrol our borders.
Congressman, thanks for joining us. Western Valley Congressman Henry Cuellar on 710 KURV.